Hey everyone, and welcome back to Actors in Conversation. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing one of the first women to be on the show, and she is the lovely, the wonderful, Bronwen Marsden. Hello Bronwen, and thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, I think we'll just get right into it. Tell me a little bit about where you got started with your artistic journey, out of school or in high school. Where did it kind of start for you?
Oh man, I remember being 8 years old and
Okay, way back.
like writing a play with my friends from school
Nice.
and like having them come over to my house after school and so we could film it and then we were going to send it to Disney and make a big movie out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it started young for sure.
Hell yeah. So then did we continue with theater and stuff through high school?
Yeah,
and-
theater, like after school classes as a kid, theater throughout high school, film as well. And then I went and did a crazy double major in film production and theater at Concordia University.
Oh my God, tell me a little bit about that, doing a double major there.
Yeah, you know, I when I was looking at schools, I was like, I definitely want to do both. So I was looking at schools that had both,
Yeah.
and I called Concordia because I identified them as a great school.
Yeah.
And was like, this is what I want to do. They were like, well, that's probably suicide, but technically you can.
You're like, well, we don't recommend it.
Yeah. So
You wanted
I
that?
started out with film. I was just like, okay, well, I'll just do film and I'll do a minor in theater.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that didn't stick.
No,
Like
no.
a year into it, I was like, no, definitely doing a double major.
Yeah, you're like, this is happening.
Yeah.
I don't care what they said. It's
Yeah.
fine. Whatever.
And the good thing about that school is it's not a conservatory theater program. So, you know, you're not spending like 20 hours a day in theater. So it
Yeah.
was kind of possible to like do film and then transition into theater. So I kind of did the bulk of my film program stuff in the first 2 years and then the bulk of my theater stuff in the later 2 years. So
you
it
could
worked out
organize
okay.
it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you did a little bit of acting between film and theater. Where did you get your start with that out of school?
Oh, I don't know. I moved back to Vancouver and started a theater company with a friend, and we were doing
That's
like
awesome.
self-producing our own work for a
Yeah.
while, did some fringe shows.
Very, very cool.
I did a few small professional theater productions, did some film work, mostly student.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just had enough, so I moved on.
Yeah, so that brings me to the question about what is one of the reasons, because you moved on to directing, but what is one of the reasons that you stopped acting?
Yeah, I mean, directing was always a thing. That was always probably number one for me, especially where film was
Yep.
concerned. I love acting. I loved it. I had some really bad experiences. I'm not going to lie. Vancouver industry is small, it's insular, and it's hard, especially as a young woman.
Yeah.
I said yes to projects that I shouldn't have said yes to.
Yep.
I worked with people who were toxic.
Yeah.
And eventually it was just like, why am I even doing this? Like, I am struggling so much. It's so painful. I'm in debt. I was struggling with self-esteem. It was just really hard. And it's like, it's not worth it. I'm not
Yeah.
doing the stuff that's interesting anyway. So,
Exactly. It's not stuff that set you on fire and stuff you really
Yeah.
wanted to do, which I understand.
yeah, exactly.
That's tough. And I am sorry to hear that. I mean, it's the reality for a lot of young women in this industry
Yeah.
of what you face in certain projects and people who will take advantage of you and all that stuff. So it is hard to hear. But we've made a name for ourselves directing.
Yeah.
And we've moved on to, I feel like it allows you to give us that kind of space that you wanted
Yeah.
as a director, which is
Totally.
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and like something that I always found challenging about acting is you don't really get to make any decisions. Like, you know, you're really at the mercy of the show, the script, the director, the producers. Like, you know, you can bring a lot to it. I'm not saying that actors don't bring incredible craft and talent to the work. Obviously they do, but you know, in terms of creative decisions, you're really limited in what you're able to
Yeah,
to do.
they depending on like how much rapport you have, they pick the costumes, they pick, you know, every other decision except the character themselves comes down to everyone else.
Yeah.
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 So where did you start directing?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Way back. Yeah.
Way back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was lucky in high school. I went to school out in Langley actually, and there
Okay.
was a really great program at my school.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like the first thing like it in the province, maybe even in Canada.
Wow.
You know, back in the 90s, making film and video in high school, and we had this killer teacher. She was
Yeah.
just amazing, and so I was, you know, getting involved in filmmaking and directing from a really young age.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is one of the biggest projects you've worked on so far?
In terms of directing?
Yes.
So I did a show, you know, in terms of like scope and name and everything, it's fairly small still, but I did a show and I'm still involved with it, with a company that I work with called Sgsmåk Theatre. It's a local company, and
Local's the best, though.
yeah, so we did a Fringe show, and I actually was the dramaturg as well as director on that
Wow.
production. So it was written by a friend of mine, and I worked with the writer to finesse it and hone it in, and we took it across Canada last summer for the Fringe tour. Sold out in Edmonton, which was amazing.
Oh, and the Edmonton Fringe Festival is huge.
It's huge, yeah.
It's a massive festival.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really exciting. And then we actually went to New York this winter right before COVID hit.
Oh, so just
Yeah.
before COVID, we got a nice little push
Yeah.
to New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Because New York has a Fringe Festival as well.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Yeah, it was really fun.
What was it like doing the Fringe Festival in New York?
It was cool. I mean, small audiences. It's so hard to do independent theater in New York because there's such an incredible commercial theater scene.
Yeah,
So like,
it's huge.
people are going to the big shows
Exactly.
and not really going to the small ones.
And tourists will be going to those big shows
yeah,
as well.
which I did, which was great.
Of course. Like, I'm in New York. I'm still going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, it's not like an easy thing, but
Yeah.
it was still really exciting. We got really great feedback. It was great to like meet the artists who were there.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
And New York's a beautiful city.
And I
so-
get to say I had a show in New York.
Exactly.
so-
Like, I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
So what helped you move on from acting to directing and staying in the industry? Did you feel that you were going to leave the industry after acting, or was there something that pushed you to be like, no, I'm going to be a director?
Yeah, so I actually did. I did leave. I stepped away completely for 5 years,
Wow.
4 years. Yeah, for a while. And it was really hard. You know, I focused on other things.
Yeah.
And was just like, why am I so unhappy? So
So like, I guess I need to go back.
yeah, so, you know, I told myself, okay, well, I'll wait for the right project.
Yeah.
I won't say yes to stuff just for the sake of working anymore.
Exactly.
And so a friend came along with a script and was like, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to do it? We're going up in 2 months. And I was like, okay.
Like, weird, sure.
I
let's
got
do
nothing
it.
better to do.
Yeah.
So I did. And like the moment I had a script in my hand and was like engaged in it and involved in it, I was like, oh, why did I step away from this? Obviously, I had good reasons at the time. But it was like, yeah, I'm home. I got to be here. This is where I have to be.
Yeah.
And so since then, it's just been, how can I do this sustainably? How can I do this in a capacity that like actually works for me and for my whole life and not just for this career?
Yeah, and will continue with you
Yeah.
for a long time. And I think you're carving out a safe space for people to work in,
Yeah.
which is, I know they talk about that in acting school. This is a safe space, work, but it's hard to find a safe space to work in,
Yeah.
especially in a ever-changing industry with new people all the time and the Me Too movement and things that are happening, and it just all creates, there are like barriers you keep having to go through
Totally.
to make a safe space.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something that, you know, in my work, in all the work I do, I really try to make a collaborative space. I try to make a space that is open to, you know, queer people, people of color, people of different genders, you know, making as inclusive a space as possible. You know, if you've got an idea, I want to hear it.
Yeah. And that's awesome, because that inclusion is the only way to move forward. It's the only way we should be moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think that's awesome, and I think that's going to be amazing for Småk Theatre,
Yeah.
which will be very, very cool.
Yeah.
Do you do anything else on the side other than directing?
I do lots of things.
Tell me a little more.
Yeah, so I'm working right now. I mean, COVID obviously changed everything.
Yeah, shook this
So-
world.
Yeah, and I had like immediately before it hit made a decision to quit my day job and like focus on more creative career path.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
It's a big move.
Yeah. So what that's led to in the last 6-7 months is I'm working on a couple of podcasts as writer, collaborator, and researcher on 2 different projects.
That's so cool.
I'm also doing a lot more video editing, which is something that I've always loved, and it's something that you know, I think it fits in my life's plan of working in a creative realm and telling stories and shaping stories.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more financially sustainable than the other projects.
There is paid money in editing.
Yeah, that's
For
the
sure.
idea.
Tell me a little bit about these podcasts, though. So there's 2 you're working on.
There's 2. So one's through Sďwmec Theatre.
Lovely.
And it's, you know, we talked for months about how we can make stories, how we can tell stories in a world where theatre isn't possible.
Yeah.
And we landed on a podcast, so we're making a
love that.
walking tour, and we're using the characters from the show that toured.
Yeah.
And so there are 2 characters, and they go on little walking tours, and they take us with them. So the first episode is about coffee, so we go to a bunch of different coffee shops on Commercial Drive.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's just fun and light, and you know, kind of engages in social issues, but in a really like light and fun way.
I think it engages in social issues that a lot of younger people can also watch as well then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when you're younger, under the age of 14, sometimes those concepts you're still learning. So having a fun way to talk about them and learn about them, I think it makes it easier for them to connect to and understand.
Totally.
Which is really, really awesome.
Yeah, and we're not trying to like beat anyone down or like, hey, here's why you should be ashamed of everything, or like, here's why you should be unhappy. It's not like that at all. It's
It's
really
educational and like a way to talk about it.
Yeah,
I love that.
exactly.
So what's the second one?
So the second one is a bit of a shift from that. So I have a dear friend who's absolutely incredible. His name's Patrick Shannon, and he is Haida. So he's from Haida Gwaii. And he's a filmmaker, he's a photographer, he's a designer, he's like launching a board game and a clothing line, and just
He's just got it all.
He teaches like video filmmaking with Indigenous youth, like all across the country.
That's amazing.
He just blows my mind. I don't know how he has so much energy. I don't get it, but he's great. So he wanted to make a podcast about education for settlers. So that's what it's called, Education for Settlers. And it's looking at Indigenous issues and Indigenous questions through a settler lens. So I'm the settler. So we're looking at things like residential schools. We're looking at you know, nomenclature, like, you know, what should I call my Indigenous friends? Like, you know, Indian, Native, Indigenous. We kind of look at all, and then some slurs as well. We kind of look at what all those words mean and the backgrounds and that sort of thing.
That is such a cool podcast. And this is called Education for Settlers.
Yeah, so it's not launched yet, but hopefully it's coming out in the next couple months.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. Is it kind of all done in studio, or is it just like a conversational podcast?
Yeah, so it's really, it's a grab bag. So he's in charge of it. I'm doing some writing and a lot of the research.
Nice.
And bringing in the questions. That's kind of my big job. So he is taking what I give him, which is usually started from a conversation that we have.
Yeah.
So like I'll ask him a bunch of questions.
Okay,
so here's a dumb question.
Questions are better though.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll ask him a bunch of questions. He'll answer it. I'll go away and do a bunch of research, bring it back to him, and then he reaches out to people in his community and abroad to weigh in as well. So he's recording in studio, and then he's also doing interviews and getting sound bites from elsewhere.
Wow, that's going to be a really cool podcast, and it's going to be like the audio version of found footage of interviews. That's a really cool concept. Yeah. I'm very excited with that. Yeah. Education for Settlers. Yeah. I will remember this.
Great.
I will remember this. So what editing work are we doing right now?
A bit of everything.
Or just freelance?
Yeah, just freelance. I'm at the beginning stages, so I'm kind of figuring out what I want to do. I did a lot of narrative stuff in school, obviously. I'm more doing docs these days.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I just finished a documentary about a farm animal sanctuary.
That's cute.
Yeah, so, whatever I can find right now. I'm just building a reel. It's early days.
Very, very, that's a huge, building a reel is so necessary for so many things. Yeah. So that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So we are getting closer to the end, but I do have one last question for you.
Okay.
And my question is there a piece of advice you would give to artists who are just starting in this industry?
Yeah.
Or pieces of advice.
Yeah, I
will
can
stick
think
to
of a
pieces.
couple.
Let's go with a couple.
Yeah.
A couple pieces of advice you have for people starting in this industry, because you've gone in and out of it. You've worked on both sides of the camera, both sides of the table. So what is your advice? What kind of little sprinkling thoughts do you have to share with us?
You know, especially as an actor, I feel a bit jaded. So I struggle with this, but
Okay.
I think something that I do tell people who are at earlier stages or starting out is don't say yes for the sake of saying yes. And also don't put yourself financially on the line.
Yeah.
Like, have that sorted. Be okay. Don't have to say yes or have to keep working jobs that aren't good for you, that aren't a good fit, because you need the money. It's a bad position to be in. And I don't recommend it.
Yeah, it makes you,
And it made me run away, you know. It made me run away from something that I loved so much.
Yeah.
But also hold on to the stuff that you do love about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important, and I think it's important to have lots of voices and lots of faces, and you know, for people to fight for a space on
keep
camera
fighting
and
for a
on
space.
stage. Yeah.
That's a good one. I think right now especially,
Yeah.
to continue to fight for your space that you rightly deserve.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Do you have a quote or something someone said to you that has stuck with you in a good way throughout your career?
No.
That is an acceptable answer. I do accept that. Yeah, for sure. So, I have a set of 7 questions to ask you.
Okay.
They're a little more character type questions, and they'll be a little more fun than what we were doing before. Not that I don't love interviewing, but these are a lot of fun. So, there's 7 of them. We're going to start with the first one. What is the biggest lie you ever told?
Oh God.
Please don't incriminate yourself.
Yeah. Nothing too incriminating. I'm sure there are others. The first thing that's coming to mind is like all the parties that I threw when my parents were away. Like, no.
I'm sorry, parents.
Yeah.
Like, now they know.
It's fine.
It's good, whatever.
I'm older. It's fine.
They can't do anything. It's fine.
No.
Same. If you could know the absolute truth to one question, what question would you ask? It could be about anything. It could be about, I don't know, why bees pollinate. It could be about anything.
Is there life on other planets?
Ooh, I
wanna
like
know.
that one. That's a good one. Scientists will be lining up to help you answer that. I
None
like
have
that.
yet, but.
Number 3. What is one thing people do that pisses you off more than anything?
Oh man, I have so many pet peeves. It's ridiculous. I really hate it when people chew with their mouths so much. So gross.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. I respect that.
Yeah.
It is cultural in some places,
Yeah.
but
Still gross
I
though.
love it. Okay. What is the weirdest thing you did as a child?
I had a few years, like early school years, like probably ages 5 to 7, or maybe a little bit into 8 years old, where, you know, I was learning to dress myself.
Okay.
And to dress myself for school, I would go into the closet and I'd pull out everything.
Okay.
And then I'd go into my dress-up clothes and I'd pull out a bunch of stuff from there. And I would just wear like 4 or 5 layers of clothes to school. So I'd have like leggings and then maybe like shorts and then like a long skirt and then like a short skirt and then like 3 shirts on. I mean, I'm wearing 2 shirts right now, so I guess.
You're like, I haven't really changed, but.
Some things never die.
That's awesome, though. Did your parents ever say anything?
Oh,
about
yeah. My mom was like, you know, you don't have to do that, but you can.
You're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah. She was very encouraging.
I love
for my
that.
quirks, which, you know, is great.
That's healthy. That's good.
Yeah.
Number 5. What fact amazes you every time you think of it?
how deep the ocean is. Like, man, it is just unfathomable.
This is why it amazes me every time I think about it.
Yeah. It's like...
It's deeper than Mount Everest.
So
or
deep.
I guess you know.
And then when you're down there, the pressure is so immense, and yet there's things that are living there. It just
They're like, it's fine. I'm cool with
blows
the
my
pressure.
mind.
That's cool. I'm like a low-key terrified of sharks and like ocean things.
I'm deeply afraid of the ocean, so I don't think about it all that often, but when I do, it's like, whoa.
You're like, oh God, oh God.
Yeah.
Ecosystems.
Yeah, pretty neat.
I love that. Number 6. If you were immortal / invincible, we've been debating this word, for a day,
Okay.
what would you do?
I really like rock climbing.
Okay.
I haven't done it in a while for various reasons, but I love it.
'Kay.
And I think I would just like go to the biggest, scariest climbs and
just
do
do it.
all of them.
All of them today.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah.
Would you do them, I don't know the proper terminology for it, but without a harness?
No. I
You're
don't
like,
think so.
I'd still use a harness.
Still sounds scary to fall.
Cool. Number 7. If there was one person you could go for dinner with and ask anything, who would it be? Past or present?
I'd want to have a conversation with Vivian Lee. She's someone that I admire so much. She was so cool, and she struggled with so many things, like her mental health and everything, which is something I can relate to. I just think it would be fascinating to have some conversations with her.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. I really like that answer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that wraps up our questions for the end of it. I love it. And thank you so, so much for coming down and chatting with me. I'm very excited to see all of your projects coming up.
Great, thank you so much.
So those will be very cool. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
My
It was fun.
pleasure. And thank you for being the first woman. Always exciting, always fun. A good thing. So thank you. And thank you all for watching this episode of Actors in Conversation. If you haven't already, click down on the link at the bottom to subscribe, and there's links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter down there, as well as keep an eye out for Education for Settlers. It'll be coming out in a few months, so that'll be awesome. Very excited to hear about that. Send me any of those as well. So thank you guys all so, so much. We can't do it without you. I love you guys. Mwah. Bye.